If you like beautiful women, sunshine, and adventure, then stay tuned for the ultimate men's guide to Latin America. If you're a man thinking about traveling or living here, in this video, we do a deep dive on these countries, rank them from best to worst, and share some hidden gems. So sit back and enjoy. Okay, how's it going, guys? I am here with the one and only Jake Nomada. So for those who don't know, Jake focuses on Latin America and the Caribbean. We're going to be doing one of these where we're going to rank all the different countries that Jake has been to, because while I have been to many countries, 120, I really have a blind spot when it comes to Latin America. I don't know how that's happened, but I haven't been to any countries in Central America. Been to every country in the Caribbean, but none in Central America. And I've only been to 2 countries in South America.
What spots have you been to in South America?
Been to Colombia twice, and I've been to Argentina when I was on my way to Antarctica. Yeah, and you know, I love it down there. Just, I guess it's a bit far away. I've always been more interested in the likes of Central Asia and the dodgy parts of Africa. I don't know why the dangerous ones always pop out first, but that's why it's great to have you on, because you can really fill in the gaps that I can't cover. So.
Yeah. So first off, man, thank you for having me on. Been a huge fan of yours since the old, I think when you released your first book in like 2012, 2013, I can't remember when that was, but I remember reading that in my college dorm. Like, man, I got to start traveling. So first off, man, like kind of inspirational for me for sure. But yeah, dude, I live in Latin America. I've been down here since 2014. And been to the vast majority of countries down here. Spent most of my time in Colombia, Mexico, and the Dominican Republic. So that's kind of my backstory, and actually down here, like procreating now. So
yeah, congratulations! You have a wee baby.
Yeah, got one confirmed. So first of 12.
First of 12. Yeah, that's a bit. We'll get into that later, because we got a lot to go through. I'm really looking forward to go through this tier list and see what you say about certain things. It's going to be really, really cool to get your perspective, and hopefully it'll be a lot of value to other people watching this. By the way, guys, that's Jake Nomada on Twitter. He also has a Substack. You're really, really productive on that. He's writing loads and loads of articles on Substack. For guys expatriating to Latin America or who want to travel there. Highly recommend it. Check it out, nomada.substack.com. Yeah, so would you want to go straight into the rankings? Or do you want to handle some questions first?
I mean, up to you, but whatever you want to do.
Let's start off maybe with South America, all right? So I have here 5 categories. I don't know if this is the best way to do it, but I thought it was a pretty decent template. So the top tier would be somewhere so good that you would actually live there. Then one place that's great for a visit, a place you give another chance to, maybe you weren't so fond of it, but you would go back. Places you wouldn't return, and places that you'd recommend nobody go to. Just, don't bother. Let's start off with Argentina down here. Where would you rank it?
I mean, personally, I'm not a huge Argentina guy, but I know right now that's probably the most popular country due to the currency having such an issue. I mean, I get at least 2 DMs a day on Twitter with people asking like, hey, bro, can I go to Argentina with $2,000 a month? Personally, for me, I think Argentina is great for a visit. I wouldn't necessarily want to live there personally, but for a visit, I mean, yeah, I think Buenos Aires is the nicest city in South America from a architectural standpoint, from a walkability standpoint. Super hot chicks, obviously. I'm not a big fan of Boludos personally. They kind of have a standoffish personality, but I would give it a great for a visit.
Great for a visit, yeah, because I love Buenos Aires. I thought it was fantastic. Very European, but maybe that's a bit too boring for some people. So yeah, all right, cool. So we're going to put that in. Great for a visit. I know a lot of people live there, but I get a lot of men complain about Argentina, about the girls being a bit stuck up. So there's another country hiding behind that flag. Is that Paraguay there? Yes.
Yeah, that's Paraguay.
Let's go to Ecuador.
Ecuador, I'd give another chance. From a nature perspective, like it has an absolutely, I mean, it has the Amazon River starts right around there. You've got all
Yeah.
these mountains. You've got really good beaches for surfing. You've got Easter Island, or no, not Easter Island,
Oh yeah.
the Galapagos Islands.
Galapagos.
Yeah. And so you have a ton of nature. It's also super, super cheap. Like you can live in the best areas of Quito with a budget of 1,500 to $2,000 a month, and live a really good life down there. And it's not as like bad from a chick's perspective as people think, because you got a bunch of Colombians coming in, not a bunch, but some. And then obviously there's a bunch of Venezuelans there as well. So it's actually doable from a dating perspective and super cheap, great nature. The people are a little different though. I always talk about this with Gringo Gorilla on Twitter. Ecuadorians are a little bit odd culturally, especially if you come from somewhere like Brazil or Colombia, where you're used to like this really warm, open Latin culture, dancing, everybody's being friendly. Ecuador is a little bit of a change from that. It's more of that Andean culture. So people are a little bit more closed off, and it's not as that, warm feeling.
You know, that's funny you mentioned that about the Andean phenomenon, because I noticed the same thing in Colombia. The higher altitudes, people tend to represent the weather. They tend to be colder. I thought that's because Bogota was maybe more of a European place, but that might be an altitude thing, because it seems to be a theme I noticed.
Yeah,
Colder
no,
climate, colder people.
yeah. And you kind of notice that as you go down from kind of southern Colombia, anywhere south of Bogota. Obviously, Cali, Colombia is an exception, but once you start getting into Ecuador, northern Peru, Bolivia, you can really see that, where the colder climate versus the warmer climate. I think the most obvious of that would be Bolivia, because in La Paz, the people are, I mean, I don't think I've heard anybody say good things about like the people in La Paz. But then you go to Santa Cruz de la Sierra, and people are super friendly. It's kind of on like the border with Paraguay, closer to Brazil. There's a lot of Brazilian medical students there. So the culture there is super warm in contrast to La Paz. So that's kind of where you really see that Andean culture kind of change things per se. But yeah, Ecuador for sure is a place I would give another chance. Did you like Bogota though?
I actually loved the nightlife. I thought it was the best nightlife in Colombia. While we're talking about Colombia, we got to rate it next for sure. I had a friend there I went to college with. He's teaching English there, and he's like he's a model. And so yeah, he showed me an amazing time. I thought it was the coolest nightlife. And actually, they were more European. Unlike the costeñas, they're a little bit colder, but I kind of like that. They're less materialistic, more, yeah, it's just kind of cooler, I guess. And the Spanish is so clear in
It's such a
Bogota.
good Spanish where like as a
Yeah.
foreigner, you can
Oh, sorry.
truly understand a vast majority of what people are saying. And did you end up going to a club called Caput?
No, I listen. I couldn't. I went to it's like a house that was converted into a brewery. A Canadian dude runs it. It was really cool, and I can't remember the names of the place. I ended up back at a house party.
Oh, okay.
I have to say, I
Well,
had the authentic Colombian experience.
I'll get, yeah. I know what that
Uh,
means.
yeah, I
I'll
think you know what I
give
mean.
the listeners a pretty good tip. If you're going to Bogota,
Yeah.
there's this massive like 8-room like house electronic club called Caput. Best place, like best place to go in Colombia for your first night out in Bogota. Colombia for sure is like live there. Like that's easy.
Yeah, I think that's kind of been, it's consensus. Colombia and Brazil are the heavyweights.
Yeah, yeah. Like I don't think you can go wrong pretty much anywhere in Colombia or Brazil. And I mean, I've got like dozens of friends that have lived in Colombia for years, and they're not going anywhere else. And I think with Colombia right now, it's such a good value because I think it's like 5,000 pesos to $1. And from what
Yeah,
I'm hearing on the
Jesus.
ground, like those prices aren't changing in pesos. So like you're basically just take like 35, 40% off what you were paying 3-4 months ago on everything.
Oh, amazing. Yeah, it's a lot of if you have dollars right now, you're laughing.
Oh yeah. Well, yeah, all of Latin America except Mexico where I am, which sucks, has pretty much, the dollar milkshake theory has played out. Brazil,
Yeah.
Argentina, Colombia, all of those, you're getting way better value with your dollars right now.
It's yeah, no. Even in Europe, it'll go further.
Oh yeah, true. Yeah.
So next up, right? What we're gonna do? We'll take let's take Bolivia here.
Now, in that would live here section, do you consider that like, you would spend a full year there, or is that like you would be happy to spend 3, 4 months there?
6 months, we'll give it.
Okay,
Um,
because with Bolivia, excuse me, I'd be super happy to go spend 3, 4 months in Santa Cruz de la Sierra.
that means you would live there because
Okay,
when I think of 3 months, I think of traveling, which is very different.
okay, yeah, no, then I would live there. I just wouldn't spend a full year in Bolivia because outside of that Santa Cruz and doing some nature stuff, there's really nothing to do. Um, but I could easily do 3, 4 months there. I have multiple friends that they don't want me to share Santa Cruz on the internet because they like it so much. So
Well, how about we put it like somewhere in the middle here,
yeah, yeah,
like
let's
maybe
do
like
that.
there, like
Yeah,
right there.
yeah, like a 3, 4 month stay is ideal. You'd get pretty bored after that.
Okay, all right. And let's go to Paraguay. I think you have some nice things to say about Paraguay. I've seen a few tweets from you.
Yeah, so the thing about Paraguay, like your dating experience as a dude is going to be really good because the chicks are going to be kind of a mix between Argentinian and Bolivian. So you're going to have like really upper class looking European girls, and then you're also going to have the more like sultry. I call them Hennessy Latinas. Like they're going to be like
Hennessy Latinas,
I call them Hennessy Latinas. So
Indigenoso.
yeah, yeah, exactly. I mean, I try not to use anything like that, but I guess Hennessy Latina might be a little bit rude. I don't know. But yeah, Paraguay's great. Paraguay's great. The people are absolutely, and I think everybody that I know have been there is the friendliest people ever. Like, there's very
Oh,
little
nice.
tourism in that country over the past couple decades, and they're just excited when a foreigner comes there and shows interest in the country and wants to spend a few months there. They get really excited about that. They really want you to have a good experience, and super, super friendly people, good looking girls. Asuncion, there's one nice neighborhood that you can stay in that's like walkable, modern bars, cafes, nightclubs, restaurants. There's also like two big malls in the country, so you can actually like, you need to go shopping, do this, do that. But then outside of that, like bubble, it's exceptionally third world, like exceptionally,
Wow.
exceptionally
Okay.
third world.
Hmm.
Personally, it's a country I spent 3 or 4 months in, and I will go back soon. I have friends that live there full time. So I'd probably put it in that Bolivia category where it's like pretty ideal for a 3 to 4 month stay. But if you tried to spend a full year there, I think you would get bored.
Okay. All right. So we're putting Paraguay in the in between in the right there as well. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, because I'm kind of viewing it like if I would live there, I would not have an issue spending like 12 months straight in the country.
Okay.
But then that, like the step below that, like a 3 or 4 month tier.
Okay. Now let's go to Chile here.
Ah, fuck Chile. Chile's terrible.
Okay.
The problem with Chile is A, their Spanish is horrible.
Okay.
B, I would say it's the women are overweight. It's probably one of the fatter countries in South America. I mean, it's not all terrible. I don't want to like insult the whole country, but
Yeah.
and it's expensive. So if you're like a red-blooded male, you want to go live in Latin America for 2, 3 grand a month, date some cute girls, go on adventures, like Chile would be one of the last options. So I would give it that probably that second to last category. Like I would go there, but for like a week maximum. So probably, I mean,
But you wouldn't really return, would you? You put it in the would not return bit.
yeah, because the only thing I would like if I would go there to like hike Patagonia or something, like do that, but I would never go to Santiago. Um, I don't really think there's a big livable city there. So yeah, I mean, probably would not return. Somewhere
Well,
around
let's
there.
do this as like you don't take these too seriously. Think of this like A, B, C, D, F.
Yeah, yeah. No, I would definitely give Chile a D then. So that's about right.
Okay. All right. All right. Peru.
Peru's a tough one.
Super
I think
touristy, right? It's got a lot of stuff to see, no? Or is it just Machu Picchu?
yeah, I mean, for nature, Peru is incredible. So many different hikes, so many different mountains, Machu Picchu. There's actually some pretty good surfing in that country. So it's got a lot to do. And Lima, in my opinion, from December 1st to about June 15th, maybe June 30th, is absolutely incredible. You have it's right on the Pacific Ocean. There's these huge cliffs overlooking the ocean where they have these really nice parks, palm trees, green grass, outdoor gyms, walking paths, coffee shops. So I really like Lima. And 90% of like the people that go to Lima are backpackers that are staying there for like a weekend. And then they go straight to Machu Picchu, or they go straight to Cusco, they go straight to Arequipa, or they go surf in the north. So there's actually a small amount of like expats that are living in Lima.
Yeah, my friend is he's doing a van life thing from Alaska to Argentina. He's going through the whole. His best man is wedding, my friend Dan, and he actually got offered a 6-figure job in Lima. So I imagine I'll be spending a lot of time there in the next few years.
Oh, you'll enjoy that. That's awesome story too, man. That's like one of my like at night guilty pleasures is to watch those like van rebuilds and stuff, and van rebuilds. That's super cool for your buddy. But Lima, yeah, Lima's good. Like it's the Philippines of Latin America, if you know what that means.
Huh.
Sure you do.
Okay. Yeah, I've heard
Yeah.
something similar. Yeah, it's the girls are muy fácil, eh?
Yeah, I mean it's definitely like that. There's just in a lot of places in Latin America, there's a very mix of races with the native Indian races, the European races, and the African. In Peru, that is very much less so. It's a very
It's more
native
indigenous,
Indian.
right?
Yeah. Hmm.
Yeah,
And so there's no
they're not the
locals
best
that are.
looking.
Yeah. There's no locals that are going to look like me or you really there. I mean, very small, like 1-2%. And so, yeah, you're going to have a ton of value. I mean, the best way I can
Yeah.
describe it is the Philippines of South America. So they're not
Mhm.
going to look as good as Colombians or Brazilians, or definitely not Argentinians. But most guys like
But they're
enjoy it for
eager.
yeah. They make up for it.
All right.
So, and
Okay.
yeah, for 2, 3,
So
4 months stay, Peru's pretty good.
so I give it another chance. You put it up there, is it?
I would say great for a visit, or even probably in that same Bolivia, Paraguay category. Because I would like
Okay.
3-4 months in Lima would be fantastic, especially if you did it in the good weather months.
Okay. Brazil. Where are
Yeah,
you
that's
putting
easy.
Brazil?
Would live here like that.
Top
I
tier.
I
Yeah.
used
There's no
yeah, it's top tier.
surprise.
No, like anybody that wouldn't live in Brazil is just insane if they like Latin America. Um, so yeah, I've only spent about 2 months in Brazil myself. It's the one place I want to go back and spend like a year and really get to know it better. But I mean, Brazil is just such a unique culture. And it's like the most sexualized culture in the world. So sexual. Um, Everybody there is just horny. I can't really describe it. It's hard to, like, you just feel it when you get there. Especially if you're going to some of these beach towns, Rio, pretty much anywhere north. It's just a very hyper sexualized culture. And it's also super aggressive, a lot of steroid use, a lot of jujitsu, a lot of martial arts. So like the dudes there are way more, I guess, competition than almost anywhere else in Latin America. But on the flip side, like the prize or whatever you want to call it is definitely worth it. The juice is worth the squeeze with Brazilian girls.
Yeah, and also I dated in Ireland. I dated a Japzilian before. They got the
Ooh,
Japanese Brazilians.
I'm jealous of that, man. I
Yeah,
know
there's got a
that's
few. There's
pretty
a
fun.
lot of Japanese over there like that. And they mixed.
Yeah. In Sao Paulo, I think there's like a 1.2 million population of Japanese, and
Yeah.
so I think that's the biggest Japanese like settlement outside or in Latin America.
Yeah, no, this one place, I don't know how I haven't visited Rio. It's like, I don't know how I haven't visited Tokyo. I don't know how I haven't visited Rio.
Yeah, you
Somehow
go
they've
to
eluded me.
you go to Somalia, but you haven't been to Rio de Janeiro. Like that's pretty crazy.
I take Somalia or Afghanistan. I'm a weirdo though. Although Rio's pretty dangerous, so maybe it doesn't for some
Yeah,
people.
like you'll feel comfortable there after Somalia for sure. I mean, that was the one city where I felt like you walk outside in a nice neighborhood and you still feel like some shit could pop off at any time. I had dudes like I'm 5'11", 220 pounds. I don't know exactly what that breaks down to for European measurements.
It's over
But I
100 kilo, 105 kilos. It's pretty big.
like 100 kilos, like 181, something like that, centimeters. So I'm not a small dude, not huge though. But even when I'm like,
And you're pretty jacked. You'd be pretty intimidating looking.
Yeah, like I most people don't even like look at me twice, try to fuck with me. In Rio, I had dudes like casing me. Like they were looking at me up and down, like deciding if they were going to fuck with me. And that happened a couple times at night. And I didn't get fucked with, luckily. But that gave you like a really uneasy feeling when you're like walking alone and you've got these two like favela dudes just kind of like looking at you like, should we fuck with this guy or not? And so Rio, definitely there's some like danger, not danger, but just you feel a little bit uneasy sometimes there.
All right. Well, geez, thanks. You're giving great info on all these places. Much appreciated. This is a really fun format, actually.
Yeah, for sure. And also, I'll tell a story about Rio. I had a buddy there a couple years ago before COVID. He was there for Carnival, and he was on the beach, like taking some photos of Carnival and everything. And these 8 kids like surrounded him and told him to give him his phone. And he tried to fight back, and they stabbed him twice. So
seriously, like kids, like young kids,
13, 14, 15, yeah.
Wow.
But I mean, that's like an adult in Brazil because people lose their virginity at like 11 or 12. So it's like,
yeah. Wow. Okay. Interesting. So it's worth the price though.
Yeah. It's the most beautiful.
I hear if you go up north though as well, like you're very exotic, especially if you're lighter shade. If you head up north, you're really exotic up there.
Yeah, so there's a fine line with that. I've got a lot of buddies that have really explored that region, and there's a few spots that are developed enough where you can actually live there. Then probably like 80% of that northern region is so third world, so shithole that it's really, and it's so poor, it's just hard. Like I had a buddy go to, he's actually Brazilian, and he went to João Pessoa, which is like a little beach town of like 1.2 million people. And it looks really, really gorgeous on the internet. And he's from Sao Paulo. He's Brazilian. And he was super excited. He spent like a month and a half there. And after it, he was like, I can't live here. It's literally too poor. Like it's so poor, it makes it hard to live like a normal life.
So that would be more like an adventurous spot you'd travel to, maybe.
Yeah, like it's a place you could spend a few weeks and just kind of explore, but like day-to-day living in a place that has that bad of economy in a violent country like Brazil is just not pleasant. And so then he ended up going to Fortaleza, and he really liked Fortaleza. He was like, for me personally, this is the best city in northeastern Brazil. I think there's like 8 or 9 beach cities in that corridor. And he's like, personally, I don't think anything's better than Fortaleza. And that's from a Brazilian perspective. So,
okay, awesome. Well, we move on to Central America. So,
yeah.
Hey guys, real quick, just wanted to announce that my latest book, My Life as a Mexican Pirate, a True Story, is coming to Audible. It details my crew and I adventures traveling to some of the most dangerous places on the planet. It got to #1 on Amazon for adventure travel, and the reviews speak for themselves. And the prequel is just as wild. So if you're ready for adventure, check out the links below. Now back to the video. Now, you haven't been everywhere in Central America, but you've been to a few countries here, and hopefully this is all of them. I hope I'm not missing any. Let's start with Panama here, which is this one here.
Panama, I had really bad experiences in Panama. I was living there in 2021. Had a horrible experience. They were completely obsessed with COVID. I actually got kicked out of an apartment for not wearing a mask. Like they terminated my lease.
I saw that on Twitter. I saw you. They actually got you on camera in the elevator.
Like they sent me a photo of me by myself in the elevator without a mask. I'm like, it was like we're gonna send this to police. I'm like, okay, whatever. So I was pretty annoyed with Panama after COVID and all that. And me and my girl, we actually came back to Mexico after that. Panama does a couple things really well. It's super high end. Like they've got really good amenities with regards to apartments, medical care. banking, crypto infrastructure, yachting.
Boats as well. It's the
Yeah,
boating hub of Central America as well.
yeah, yeah. And like, well, Panama has, I want to say 1,300 islands. So like, if you have a
Wow.
yacht in Panama, there's just so much stuff you can explore. So that was what I was going to say is for like somebody who's interested in yachting, maybe wants to live on their boat, things like that. Panama would be
Yeah.
absolutely fantastic for that because not only you
Below
have
the
Panama,
hurricane belt as well.
yeah, it's not. There's no hurricanes there. You can easily take your boat to Colombia from there. Go to Cartagena, Barranquilla, Santa Marta, and then if Venezuela ever gets safe, that would be an easy pop-off point to get to Venezuela to go to like La Chiria and stuff like that. But for like a day-to-day living in Panama, I'd probably put it at like right around that middle section, like a C.
I see. Okay. Okay. So
Yeah,
you
like
would give it another chance, or you wouldn't really return. It would be in the middle here. What do you reckon?
I'd give it another chance strictly for the yachting because that's something that's super interested for me. But for most people, it'd probably be in that DEC category.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, because I hear Boca de Toros is the nice place. That's where all the islands are, right?
The islands are everywhere, but yeah, there's a huge archipelago in Bocas del Toro. Very Caribbean, palm trees, white sand.
Hmm.
There's actually surfing there. It's one of the like best surf spots in the Caribbean in Central America.
All right. Cool. Let's move to a random one here. El Salvador. That's
So
El Salvador, right?
I got jumped in El Salvador in 2014. And that was when I think San Salvador was like the second most dangerous city in the world. I think there were like 87 murders per. I mean, it was terrible. I'm not sure why I went there, and I'm not sure why I went to the park at night to try to do some push-ups and pull-ups. That was like a very bad life choice. But apparently, it's been improving a lot. So with like the Bitcoin stuff, and I guess the president put like every person with a tattoo in the country in jail. I think like that's what he did, like because he said like the vast majority of people with tattoos in that country are gang members. So he just started like having his police round up anybody that had tattoos, like males.
Whoa.
Um, so yeah, I mean,
He went like a Duarte on it.
yeah, yeah, but it worked. Like it's now literally the safest country in Latin America.
Yeah, I've heard a lot of. I heard it's improved vastly.
I
So
would probably
would you return and give it another chance?
I'd give it another
Or
chance for sure at this point. If it stays safe and they keep going with the Bitcoin stuff, it might turn out to be pretty cool.
okay. Right, Costa Rica here,
Ugh. I don't
because
know about Costa Rica.
this is a famous place for tourists. It's
Yeah,
probably, and also it's been very popular with the bougie expatriate crowd. The
yeah.
find your find
The,
your inner self.
like the eat, pray, love white women that are going on yoga retreats and
Yeah,
want
I
vegan
know them.
food.
I have friends who went over, and they're all yogis and
Yeah,
vegans, and
yeah.
yeah.
And actually, funny story. Last night I went to uh like a yoga mantra chant thing with my chick because she's like all into that bullshit. And like going to one of those and seeing how females react to that bullshit is like the best course in like female psychology of like all time because it's like it's an absolute mind fuck to see like how like into this shit chicks get because from like a masculine perspective I'm just like this reminds me of like singing in church. So I'm like I'm not big on this, but these girls truly love this shit. And it's such like if dudes are struggling to understand chicks, I would just say go to like one of those things. Go to like a fucking yoga mantra retreat because it's crazy to see like how into these chicks are.
Yeah, and it's sort of, there's a lot of cuddlefish guys in that scene. Uh,
Yeah,
I got stories because I was very much in New York. I kind of got into a lot of unusual scenes like that, and there's a lot of guys who are like sex therapists, or there's a whole world. It's a whole world of spiritual realm. There's a lot of creepy dudes who kind of like infiltrate it.
yeah, yeah,
Uh,
yeah. No, and I
it's
mean
funny.
they probably got a point. Consider, I mean, there's pretty good quality, I think, in a lot of those higher
Yeah,
end yoga.
yoga girls who do yoga, and they're like, they eat well usually. Some of them
Oh
don't
yeah,
even drink; they're on the green tea.
yeah. No,
I
and
mean, yeah, you get some really healthy girls, but they're very ideological though. They'd wreck your head after a while.
Oh yeah, yeah. A lot of bullshit with that, especially if they can't like kind of separate like that lifestyle, just like having it as like something as a hobby versus like going like off the deep end, where they're
Identity.
like
Yeah.
now wanting to live on like a fucking commune in Guatemala or Costa Rica. Like that's a bit much. So yeah, that was
Do you see a
interesting.
lot of it though in Costa Rica? Do you see a lot of that? Yeah.
So I haven't been to Costa Rica in years, but even in 2014 when I was there was 100% a lot of that. Like
Hmm.
people will fly in there, and the airport would be packed with foreigners, and then you get to San Jose, the capital. There's barely any foreigners because all of them just go to the beaches, the yoga retreats, and you
Hmm.
see so many of those hippie chicks, those yoga chicks, even dudes, same shit. That's what that country's known for. On the flip side, like nature in Costa Rica, it's so green. It's got great beaches on the Caribbean, incredible surfing on the Pacific coast. It's got the cloud forest. Like from a nature perspective, it is absolutely top tier. From a city perspective, it's fucking awful. I mean, there's nightlife in San Jose, and there's not that many foreigners because all the foreigners dip out pretty quick.
Hmm.
But I mean, I'd return for like a month or so to do some nature shit, probably party a few times in San Jose, but it's definitely not a place I would live. Definitely not like a 3 or 4 month stay, more like a week, 2 weeks, max a month. So I'd give it that like C tier probably.
C tier. Okay. Okay. Yeah, it's one of those places I really hear mixed reviews about.
Yeah.
More so than anywhere. It seems to be quite polarizing.
I think if people,
Honduras. Say one.
yeah, well, I think if people are enjoy being around like more expats, more gringos, things like that, they really like Costa Rica. If it's someone like me or you, where we like to get off the beaten path and kind of explore, you're gonna fucking hate Costa Rica.
Okay, it's Disneyland. It's like
Yeah,
it's nature with a bow. Okay,
it's
all right,
Disneyland
that's
for
interesting.
yeah.
All right, so let's go to is it Honduras, right, or Nicaragua? Which flag is it?
That I think that is that Nicaragua.
Have
I
you been
spent
to
way.
both?
I popped into Honduras. Didn't spend enough
So
time
this
there
is
to
like,
really.
well, then this is Nicaragua because I was looking at your list, so I think this is
Yeah,
Nicaragua here then.
yeah,
If it's not,
Nicaragua.
I apologize to all Nicaraguans and Hondurans out there. But sorry, choose different flags, guys. Come on, you all went with the blue and white thing. What's going on?
Yeah, well, look, and that's the same shit with El Salvador. It looks exactly the same too.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Uh,
And they just kind of
uh,
copy Argentina. I was like, we're gonna go darker.
yeah, no, Nicaragua. I'm actually like, in a weird way, I rate Nicaragua exceptionally high. I probably overrate it because I just love it there.
You're not the first. I have heard wonderful things about Nicaragua. It's constantly mentioned to me actually
Yeah,
for being one of the best spots in all of Central America.
it just has everything in my opinion in such a compact space. So like you cross the border from Costa Rica, if you let's say you're doing a backpacking tour, and you're going to go to San Juan del Sur, which is this like gorgeous little beach town that has world class surfing, great views of the ocean. There's tons of sailboats in the bay. There's 3 or 4 different like bays that you can surf in. It's got pretty good nightlife for a backpacker town. It used to have this thing called Sunday Fun Day, where like at like 10 a.m. on a Sunday morning, they like pick you up in these shuttles and you go to like these 3 different hostel bars and it's like 200-300 people. Everybody's getting shit faced, day drinking, super fun. I'm not sure if they do that anymore, but I'd imagine they do. But the nightlife there is really good for like a backpacker place and super gorgeous, super cheap. And then from there, they have the biggest lake in Central America. That's again another huge. And there's actually a big island in the middle of it. I think it's called Ompete. I'm not saying that right. But that's a huge backpacking scene there. And then no foreigners that go to Nicaragua actually go to the capital. So Managua is a raging shithole. Like there's not a nice neighborhood in Nicaragua. I think it's like 1.4 million people, but there's not a nice neighborhood. But the nightlife there is great, especially if you're a gringo, because like you're going to be the only gringo, you're going to be the only foreigner, the only European in the whole like nightlife complex. And so obviously, like it doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure that you're going to have a good time when you go out in Managua. Um, and then there's two colonial cities, Leon and Granada. Both of those have cool architecture. They're a little backpackery, but like they're cool too. There's a bunch of surfing. They have the Caribbean islands, the Corn Islands, that are super gorgeous, super Caribbean. And then pretty much all of the north and east of the country is like unexplored. So it's a raging shithole, but you could have some fun just getting off the beaten path there.
Oh god, that's a place I really want to visit now. Yeah, it's one of those. It's actually one of the higher ones on my list.
And it's
So
super cheap.
so where are we rating this? Because you probably wouldn't live there though, would you? It would just great for a visit, would you say?
It's definitely not in that Colombia, Brazil tier. I would say probably great for a visit. Like you could do 1 or 2 months there, do some exploring, really get into nature, party hard in the capital. I would probably give it that great for a visit, 1 to 2 months level.
Okay. Okay.
I know I'm going to get some
Cool.
hate putting Argentina and Nicaragua on the same level, but I stand by that.
Okay. No, listen, we all have our own tastes. So last is Mexico.
Mexico's a tough one. Like on one hand, it's by
It's
far the
huge.
most. It's huge. First off, like it's the
Yeah.
second biggest country behind Brazil. Probably 95% of tourists are going to the popular beach towns or Mexico City. Cancun, Playa del Carmen, Tulum, Cabo San Lucas, and Puerto Vallarta. Those are like the five most popular beach towns. And then you have Mexico City. So I avoid all of those places like the plague. I would not recommend anybody live there. But once you get outside of that in Mexico, I mean, it's pretty underexplored. And so if you're going to even Guadalajara, which is the second biggest city in Mexico, there's really not that many gringos here. And so you once you kind of get off the beaten path in Mexico, the experience is going to change completely. And also in Mexico, there's definitely a culture of scamming tourists in those beach towns. And once you get out of those beach towns, that culture completely goes away. The people are super friendly. Best food in Latin America by far. I don't think it's even close. Like some people say Peruvian food is really good. It is, but Mexico takes the cake by far on that.
Yeah, I've had a lot of
And
Peruvian food. It is nice, but I definitely think Mexico got it beat. That
oh
Mexican
yeah,
food.
no.
Mm.
Like Peruvian food has like a handful of dishes I really like. In Mexico, like there's probably like hundreds of different fucking tacos they do here. So it's like you can almost never try all the different dishes.
So listen, you live there, so obviously you got to put it up here because you're
Yeah,
living
yeah.
there for a reason.
I would definitely put Mexico in that live there category. I would just
With a
say,
giant asterisk.
yeah, for sure. Like
Okay.
I would live in. I would live in Guadalajara, Monterrey, Acapulco, Morelia, Manzanillo, Veracruz, Tampico. I'm giving away all the game on Mexico right now. So if any of your listeners are like,
Here.
yeah, there's definitely some places in Mexico to explore. I would just not like Mexico City is, in my opinion, it's a shithole.
Oh yeah, really?
Yeah.
It's just too big, right? I mean, there's like it's the most populous city in the Western Hemisphere, is it?
Yeah, yeah, or Sao Paulo. I think kind of varies
Yeah,
depending on the
yeah,
metrics,
20
but
mil or 10 mil
yeah,
or no, it's a lot. It's a lot. I know
I get a
Bogota
lot of
is
hate. Yeah,
10
it's
million.
huge. I get a ton of hate on hating on Mexico City. I just personally don't like it. The only benefit to Mexico
Mega cities. Sometimes they're just too goddamn big, man.
is just so big, and there's so many foreigners, and like if you're past that point in your life where you just want to Uber eat girls off apps to your apartment every day, and you actually want to like do something else than just that, there's no benefit to Mexico City. Like in Mexico
Mm.
City, yeah, you can be on apps and you can just be like, hey, come over, and it's 25 million people. You can find a new chick to do that every day. And if that's what you want, like Mexico City works, they're not going to be super
See,
hot.
you're selling it for a ton of guys watching this now. They're like, yes,
That's fine.
in.
They can go. Like my
We,
friends are all like, I had a couple friends that spent like 3 years in Mexico City, and they left right after COVID started, like 2020, August, September, October, because A, they went super strict on COVID, and B, there were already an influx of foreigners starting there, and they were just like, it's too many foreigners.
Well, let's throw up like if somebody did want to do that, right? I'm sure there's guys watching who like literally just want to rack up numbers, especially in the early 20s. If they had the choice between there or let's say Bogota, where would you pick?
I mean, if I'm in that mode where I'm just like trying to like rack as many numbers up, I'm probably going to Lima, Peru.
Lima,
Um,
Peru. Right?
yeah, that would probably be where I'd go.
Well, let's say
Um,
Let's say like you wanted a bit more quality. What you wanted quality and quantity? Would Mexico City or Bogota?
I don't think there's quality in Mexico. I mean, there is, but like
Yeah.
most guys
I,
I know in Mexico City aren't like fucking. Colombia is way
yeah.
better for quality. Like that's just
Yeah, I
reality.
thought so. When I was living in New York, man, a lot of the Mexican girls have Coca-Cola can bodies. They're just squares.
Yeah, no. So there's a huge difference in Mexico
Hmm.
between basically south of Mexico City versus north of Mexico
Yeah,
City.
North are better looking, much better looking, right?
Yeah, because they've got
Yeah.
a different like mix genetically with like the
Hmm.
native blood and the European blood, and I think the
Yes,
diet
yes.
is a little bit different in the north versus the south as well.
Yeah, and I hate to be a little risky, but they said the more kind of indigenous you get, the kind of better, worse looking they get, and the more European, better looking. You know.
That in Colombia, that's not true, but in
Yeah, I
Mexico,
agree with you.
I found
Yeah,
that
I
to be
agree
true.
with you there. Yeah, you're dead right. Yeah, the Mayan kind of genes are kind of squatty, whereas the best looking girls I see in Colombia are actually mestizos, which
Yeah,
are mixed. Yeah, you're right because they're different tribes or and whatever way their bodies are completely different. Maybe
is
because there's more of an Afro influence in Colombia.
that's what I think it is a lot of that native admixture kind of mixed with some of the African in the coast of Colombia and Cali. So then you get
Yeah,
those mixes where they do look very
the
native,
bodies
but
are better.
yeah,
The
and
bodies
they
are
don't, you
better.
don't
Yeah,
have that in Mexico.
they got more curves. Yeah,
Mhm.
Mexico is more squatty. Yeah, they just don't have
Yeah,
the genetic variety.
yeah.
Oh, awesome. Okay, so we've done all of South America and Central America. Next up is Caribbean. Now, I know, guys, some of these countries on the list here are not Latin, notably Bahamas and Jamaica. Um, but you could argue that Haiti is because it's French, but it's a long shot. Uh,
Yeah.
but let's go start with the Latin ones.
Okay.
So Cuba,
Cuba is definitely not a place I would live.
no way, no way.
Cuba's like a place to go for, in my opinion, 3 to 5 nights. Do some tourism, experience it, plan to not have any internet, plan to not meet a single girl that's not a hooker, and basically just
That's
kind of
hard.
enjoy it. Yeah, like you basically are just there as a tourist. And so personally, I would never return. So I'd put it in that D
Mhm.
category. But if you
Mhm.
have not been to Cuba, it's worth 3, 4 nights for sure to go like just see it, experience it.
Yeah, well, we got to put it here because it is based on your personal experience. I would say to people as well. I wouldn't be in a rush back either. Uh, I had a great time there. It's a very unique place. It's like they
Yeah,
paused in the 1950s.
yeah,
90% of girls you meet are on the game. For
yeah.
guys interested, I was there for 2-3 weeks, and I actually really had a great time. But if guys are interested in hooking up in Cuba, by the way, the girls are gorgeous
Yeah.
and they're really
Mhm.
good looking. But if you want to hook up over there, you got to go for either students. They hang out in every kind of town in Cuba has these squares, these plazas. So all the students go there. They bring their own alcohol. They'll bring guitars. They'll sing. That's the best place to actually mingle, not the bars. The bars are full of pros. And the other two types of girls to go for are ones who are professional musicians or dancers. So a lot of these bars and tourist areas, they'll have like musicians playing, singers, and dance shows. And those girls, because they're making income that way and getting tips and stuff, they're not on the game. Whereas every girl you meet out though in bars and nightclubs are going to be trying to hustle. Even doing day game there,
Oh, yeah.
you talk to girls, man, and they're looking for cash after a few texts. So it's
Oh,
it's
yeah.
it's the most. I've never been to a place where prostitution is more prevalent in my life than in
Oh,
Cuba.
oh, it's insane. And yeah, the one thing that you mentioned about like the people that are actually artists, musicians selling stuff in the streets, That's actually like the upper middle class in Cuba. And I was actually incredibly impressed. This isn't even about chicks at all. The level of artwork that they sell in the streets in Cuba, like if you're in Miami or somewhere and you're looking to like decorate a house, I would go straight to Cuba because you could get like world class hand painted stuff for pennies on the dollar. I actually had a buddy that did that because the level of artists in Cuba, because it's one of the only ways to make money there, is just so high. Um, the one thing I loved about Cuba, though, I went to a club called Fabrica de Arte or something like that, and it's this like art museum mixed with a club. Did you go there?
I don't think so. No, but funny enough, one of the best clubs I ever went to was in Cuba, and you just have to remind me of it. A place in Trinidad, the city of Trinidad. It's like a tourist town, hard to get to, but they have a giant club in a cave. You go down into a cave, and they got this
Oh,
massive
that's so
club in the
cool.
cave. It's one of the coolest places I've ever been,
Yeah.
for
No,
sure.
yeah, that was the same with that it was literally like an art gallery and then a
Cool.
club mixed together. There were like 7 or 8 different rooms, and like half of them were art, half of them was dancing. And that club, there were probably like 500-600 people there. It was crazy. But that, and I also, that was the only place I met chicks that weren't hookers in all of Cuba.
Yeah, it's kind of a mixed bag. And when I was there, actually, there was no data. They had no data on the phone, so I imagine it's changed the game a bit.
I
But
don't
I'm
know.
sure if you go on the apps, it's gonna be all hookers anyway. So
Yeah, like you can't do apps in Cuba regardless, even if the Wi-Fi has improved a little bit there. It's still going to be all hookers.
and even getting a SIM card, I'm like your SIM card won't work over there. I had to get like my local casa owner to buy me a SIM card, and it was a whole ring meringue. I had to queue up for 2 hours just to get my credit refilled. It's a very strange place. It's an anomaly. It's the biggest anomaly out of all these on the list. It's an
Yeah,
interesting from a touristic point of view. It's like visiting a museum almost. But
yeah,
yeah, I see what you mean. Like no, I don't think. And every time I recommend it to people, they always cry after like that sucked. Some people like it, but yeah, I speak Spanish, so maybe I had a better time.
yeah. I
Um,
mean, I think it's cool for like a quick vacation. But if your focus is, either you're working online and you're trying to be an expat, or
no,
your
it's
focus is
no
chicks,
internet. Forget about it.
yeah,
Yeah,
like the main things dudes do down here is they either run into business or they're focused on chicks, and you really can't do that at a high level in Cuba on either hand.
yeah. And I suppose we're rating this more for dudes, and I can, in good faith, recommend Cuba for that because of the difficulties with all the prostitution.
No,
Unless that's
definitely.
your thing, but
Yeah,
that's not
if
my
that's what
audience.
you want, like then Cuba's great because you literally can walk
Mhm.
outside your house and that'll be right there in like 5 minutes. So, but
Yeah, and there's a lot of mixes. Like you get blondes, you get African girls, you got everything there. But
yeah, very
anyway,
cool.
moving on. Kind of an anomaly here. Puerto Rico, it's not technically a country, but it's a big island. Have to include it. It's the only kind of major territory I have not been to in the Caribbean. I can't get a US visa anymore, sadly.
Okay,
Because
sure.
yeah, don't ask. They won't tell me why. I'm on some sort of naughty list. Because Irish people get visa fee travel, but you get knocked off that list if you've been to there's like 7 or 8 countries like Syria, Libya, or Iran, Iraq, Somalia, a few other ones. And I've been to like four of the 7. So, and then when I applied, they just said no.
Yeah.
No. Anyway,
Don't feel bad. Me and my buddy, we both are on like the blacklist. So every time we fly back to the States, we get taken to like the back room and they like search our full bodies, search our computers. Like
do you know? Do
I
you
don't
know
know what.
why?
No.
I reckon it's something about all these like doing blogs and content creation. It seems like you get put on
Yeah.
naughty lists if you're in the manosphere or anything related to that.
Yeah.
I don't
No,
know.
I think that's probably has something to do with it for sure.
Yeah, well, maybe if I apply via a lawyer or something one day, because there's some place I'd love to go back to. I never got to visit like Vegas or Miami or New Orleans mainly. That's the only place. But anyway, skipping across that, tell me about Puerto Rico? Where's it going over here?
I mean, there's tons of Americans there because of
Yeah,
the
is it
tax
like
breaks.
Cancun on steroids?
No, it's a different vibe. It's definitely not a place to go for chicks. I mean, in my
Really?
opinion, no. I
Yeah,
don't think
because
so.
I was living in New York. Some of the best looking girls I ever met in my life, they were Puerto Rican.
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of the upper class, the hotter ones, they all leave because they don't need a
Yeah,
visa to the United States. They're
they
like, why would I?
escaped. This is like the
Yeah,
Cubans, all the hot ones left, or
yeah.
the
So
Dominican Republic as well.
yeah, no, I had an experience. I was in the Dominican Republic. I loved the Dominican Republic, and then I went to Puerto Rico, and it was drastic. Like the
Oh,
change,
really?
yeah, yeah, like
That's
drastic.
saying something because I don't rate Dior as highly as most people. I thought Pior would be good, but it's that's interesting that you're saying that. That's
Yeah, like
interesting.
if you're
I don't got
comparing,
FOMO anymore. Thank you.
yeah, if you're comparing DR and PR, like it's no, there's no question. And I think actually, that dude on Twitter, Bold Tide Bo, made a post about that the other day. He was like, "You don't go to Puerto Rico for the women, like you just don't."
Ah,
So,
okay.
I
And
mean,
it's
it's
very highly competitive because you got all that American money. It's all very flashy, right?
lots of wealth. I mean, there and it's pricey too. Like you're paying Miami prices. Like it's
Oh,
not going to
okay.
be like a cheap Caribbean. Like it's going to be an expensive Caribbean destination. I just don't. Outside of the tax breaks, I see no reason to go there. Like if you're an American
Okay.
that wants the tax breaks, you can make it work because you could literally take a 30-minute flight to the Dominican Republic every weekend if you wanted to. But outside of that, I see no benefit to living there. Or even,
Okay.
I mean,
So where would you go? Would you put it in a void or would not return or?
I'd probably put it would not return. I mean, it's better than Cuba. It's better than Chile, but it's not. I would go to Ecuador over that any day of the week.
Okay. All right. Okay. All right. That's no. That's very insightful actually. Because yeah, that's yeah. I'm glad to hear that because I did have a little bit of FOMO. Now I
Yeah,
definitely don't. So moving on to um, we'll do yeah. Let's go for because these ones are more African countries. It's not really you couldn't call them LATAM, but so the last one would be Dominican Republic.
yeah. I'm huge on the Dominican Republic. Outside of Colombia and Mexico, that's actually the country I've lived in the longest. I think I've spent almost 8
Oh,
months there.
okay.
Um, I love it.
Were we in Santo Domingo?
Yeah. I was living
Yeah, I
in
spent a bit of time there.
Piantini in Santo Domingo, which is like the nicest neighborhood. Got some really
Is
good
that the one with
malls.
that big street, the main street?
Yeah, I can't remember. It's called Lincoln Churchill, something like Roosevelt. I don't know, but yeah, there's that main
Yeah,
street there,
Rosa. Yeah, something. Yeah, okay. Is it near the
Roosevelt
zone
or
of
Lincoln.
Rosa?
Yeah, and then so that place is just like, I mean, it's a weird. Dominican is so weird to me because the women are just so direct. Like they'll just stare at you until you come talk to them. Even more than Brazil, which Brazil is so direct. But in the DR, like if a chick is attracted to you and she's single, she just stares at you. Like there's like she's like, come talk to me, don't be a bitch. Like that is literally the energy. And so I really enjoyed that level of directness coming from the Midwest United States. Like you go there, it's completely different world. Some of the best beaches in the world,
And they
really
can
cool.
dance. They
Ooh.
can
And
dance.
bachata is such a better music than salsa. And so, at least for me personally, I'd love like going to the bars because they're playing reggaeton and they're playing bachata or what was the other one, dembo or whatever it's called, like the
Oh,
Caribbean,
merengue, is it?
a little bit of merengue. But like Colombia, they play a ton of salsa, they play a ton
Yeah,
of vallenato, and I don't
yeah.
like that music that much. But in the Caribbean, like the music is fantastic. The chicks
Yeah,
can
yeah.
dance.
I think it's some of the best music I've ever heard. Actually, I Dominican Republic blew my mind for the music. Bachata comes from there as well. So and they have a I think they have another style as well. Um, yeah, yeah. It's I had a wild time in Dominican Republic.
I
Pretty
remember
wild.
reading one of your first stories from there.
Yeah, yeah. Well, just it was a time of contrast. You guys can listen to it in the audiobook. Let's just say I got very lucky and then very unlucky at the same time. Like I was the luckiest man in Dominican Republic at my first night, but uh, yeah. But I also have one of my worst stories ever from there. So I've mixed emotions. But I
Yeah,
didn't get to see enough of the nature there. I would go back. But I didn't. I felt like I was too much into like scoring, and
yeah.
I was,
You,
just city dwelling. I didn't give the actual country much of a chance aside from that.
And like with the
So
DR, I think Santo Domingo in the nice neighborhoods is very livable. Um, Outside of that, I don't think there's really anywhere in the country I would like live. But
yeah,
there's
the
a
other
ton of
cities
places.
I wasn't fan of the other cities. It's kind of dirty and
No, like, and people talk about Santiago de los Caballeros. I think I didn't really like it there. It's an okay city, but
I didn't like it at all. Santiago, I didn't like it at all.
it was just very slow, very social circles. I
Mm,
didn't think there was like a nice area there. It was just kind of
no,
all spread out like suburbs. And if you're going to go
yeah,
for a small city, like I think there's probably 5 or 6 small cities in Colombia that are way better than that. So really, for me, the Dominican Republic is like living in Santo Domingo, and then whenever you want, you can go to the small cities in the mountains. You can go to the beaches, but really, the only livable place is Santo Domingo.
hmm. Yeah. It was my actually favorite spot in Dior. It was actually the capital.
Yeah.
So where would you rank Dior?
I'd put it at that same level as Peru, Paraguay, and Bolivia, where it'd be great for a 3 or 4 month stay. After that, you might. I mean, it's super, Caribbean. It's super third world. Food is absolutely horrific. There's,
The food
there's
is awful. Yeah, I
it's
remember that.
so fucking
It's
bad.
very like American processed food, and they
Like,
try to make some sort of cuisine out of it.
oh, it's and
Yeah,
like they have this dish called like mondongo pho or whatever. Like, first off, it sounds
mondongo. Yeah,
disgusting,
my
and
ex
then
was Dominican, and I used to go over to the house, and they were like, "Oh, to try our local dishes." I was, this is lovely.
yeah, dude, that literally some of the worst food in the world. But I mean, you're there probably for the beaches and the women, so it
Yeah.
is what it is.
Okay. Right now that LatAm's done, that's a great list there, guys. Have a look at that. Now, just because you've been there and it'd be interesting to contrast and it's in the same region, we might as well throw in these ones as well. The kind of outliers, which are more the African nations. Although you could argue Haiti, they speak French, it's kind of Latinish.
Yeah,
Haiti's a wild time, though. What would
dude,
you say to people about Haiti? I can't believe you've been to Haiti, first of all, because
I
I
loved
don't
it.
meet. Yeah, I loved. I had a great time.
Like for
I
for
had,
like
I got
for like a
mugged
week
and
or two.
stuff.
Yeah, yeah. I
Yeah,
remember you had a crazy story about. Didn't they
I
want
had
to try
four
to
people
steal your
mug me.
shoes?
Yeah, steal my shoes. I had an Bresla match for my shoes. It was after the earthquake, and it was, oh my god, it's like fourth world. It's like up there with
Oh,
Somalia and Congo.
oh
It's probably
yeah.
the
Like,
roughest place you've ever been in your life, right?
oh, fucking brutal. So I didn't even go to Puerto Prince. I went to
Pétionville? Do you go to Pétionville?
no,
Cap
I went
Haitian?
to Cap Haitien.
Ah, that's rough as well. That's rough as well.
So I stayed in like the
They
nicest hotel
stare.
in,
They
in Cap
stare.
Haitien, right? And it's like
Yeah.
on this hill overlooking the bay in the city. So I could see like the whole city from like my balcony at the hotel. And then, my first day there, I took a tour with some Haitian Americans who went to the Citadel, like the slave mansion fort thing. They were staying in the same hotel as me,
Mm.
and they were there just to like chill out, smoke weed, and like go on adventures. So like every morning we'd eat breakfast, smoke a joint, and then like head out to do whatever. So they were like super cool dudes. But driving through Cap Haitian, I remember like my jaw dropping because I never. This was like I'd been in Latin America for 6 years. I was used to the third world, but like you said, it's fourth world. Like,
Yeah.
people are shitting on the streets. There's trash everywhere. Nobody has shoes. Like, I remember driving through this neighborhood and just being amazed that nobody had shoes on. Like, they can't. They're so poor there. Sadly, they can't afford a pair of shoes. Um, and it was just absolutely brutal.
Yeah, and it was particularly bad in Port-au-Prince because the earthquake had happened. It was just raw rubble. It was next level. I'd never seen the like of it. And even though I had a bad time with the guys getting robbed by four guys, let's just say I met some locals who made up for it, who were great
Yeah,
ambassadors.
yeah. No, I was never into
They got good
that.
bodies on them. They got if you like curves like
Yeah,
arse.
and that's never been like my thing, but obviously you got to try the local cuisine when you're somewhere. And the one thing that amazed me, and this isn't even like perverted or horny or whatever. Like they have the softest skin ever. Like it's so just like I've never experienced that before. Where I'm like, fuck, what do you do? Like I literally asked this chick, like, what do you do for like more? Like I want my skin to feel like this. Like how do you do that? And of course, like she's
He's
Haitian.
like,
And
oh,
they're
it's
not,
just poverty.
yeah, like she's not like buying anything. It's
That's
just
so bad.
natural. Like, that's truly insane. Um,
Mm.
but I actually thought like they had pretty good personalities and
Yeah,
very
yeah,
friendly.
yeah. The girls, yeah, I found yeah, I found them. I had some really nice experiences.
Yeah.
Compared to Jamaicans, I prefer the Haitian attitudes. You know.
Yeah, I would say outside of the Dominican, like I wouldn't live in Haiti. I don't think anybody with like a sane
No,
mind
no
would live in
way, no
Haiti.
hope in hell. You can't put
But
it there.
no, but I thought the people were very friendly, and for such a poor country, it's not a super violent place. Like I felt less street crime there than I felt in a lot of other places in Latin America that had better economies. It was kind of a weird thing, even though it felt like the skin is crawling on your back because you're seeing so much poverty, but nobody was ever like violent or aggressive towards me in Haiti. And same thing in the Dominican Republic where there's tons of Haitians. I never had an issue with a Haitian in the Dominican Republic.
Wish I could say the same, but I
Yeah,
still enjoyed my time there.
you had a different experience, but I
Yeah,
thought they were pretty friendly overall.
yeah. I met the friendliest people because I met some, I said, the Haitian Americans, but they were Haitian Haitians, but they had American accents, and they like bought me out in their boat for the day, and they like let me stay in their house and stuff. This couple, and they were so nice, and also had some met some really nice people in the capital. But then again, I said I had some bad experiences, and also I was just after the earthquake. There was a lot of anti-American sentiment, and I had people spit on me and say like,
Oh, really?
fuck you, get away, Americans, fucking tourists. So I had along the very some very report. There's a lot of resentment in the after the earthquake because they thought it was actually from the states. So it's definitely a land of contrast, and it's by far the most adventurous place on the list. I would not recommend this place to first timers who are traveling outside America. This is pretty hardcore. It's pretty hardcore. If you're looking
You've
for a
got to
proper
have gone to
adventure,
yeah, you've got to have gone to some shitholes before you go here. Like if
yeah.
you don't feel comfortable in the Dominican Republic or Cuba, don't go to Haiti because
It's
it's the
paradise. The Dominican Republic looks like paradise next to it.
oh, Dominican Republic's like the fucking like technological center of the world after you go to Haiti. Like, you know, it's like super advanced. Like if you compare Haiti to the Dominican Republic, you will like after Haiti, you will think the Dominican Republic's like fucking Japan or Korea or some shit because it's so developed compared to Haiti.
Yeah, well, it's funny, but anyone who goes to Dior though, if they're up for it, I always say try and get over to just for a few days. Check out,
Leave all your
and I did
valuables
that to a
at
few
your
people.
hotel.
Sorry.
Leave all your valuables at your hotel. Like just take a
Yeah,
backpack, cross the border. Super easy.
I've recommended that to a few people I've met, and they've done it, and they've messaged me after. Goes like, oh my god, that was the best bit of the trip,
Yeah.
because
Oh
they
yeah.
were like, they were betting on cockfights. And they were like, going to these clubs where they're the only tourists in the place, getting so much attention. It's like, oh, this place is wild.
Oh, it's so wild.
Um,
I've had told two friends the same thing and they did it. And they're like, I wouldn't go there again, but for that like 4 or 5 days I spent there, I had an incredible time. Like
yeah.
it's definitely
So
worth it.
it's hard to categorize it then because you don't want to dish it, but it's kind of good for a visit, but it's a would not return also. So let's
I would
put
say
this in
like
a
kind of like that middle, right? Like above Cuba but below Ecuador.
yeah. And I not yeah. It's kind of oh yeah. Okay, so one sec. Where yeah. Yeah, maybe like here. Yeah,
Yeah.
this is kind of right there. But it's given it a. Well, I think we our descriptions gave it a fair assessment anyway. So we're saying more positive things about it than you'd expect. But
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
hard to yeah. Go on.
For a shithole adventure for like 4 nights, 5 nights a week, like highly recommended if you have experience traveling in Latin America or Africa. Um, but for like anything more than that, it would be a would not return. So
Yeah, 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 yeah. If I was in Dior again, I'd be tempted if I was with some friends. Like, here, listen, do you want a bit of a crazy time? Let's pop over.
Yeah,
But
I would for sure pop over for a week or so if I was in the DR.
yeah. Right now, the last two. Okay, Bahamas. It's a pretty vanilla one. So
Yeah, that'd be a would not return for me. I mean, I don't like. There's just no reason to go to the Bahamas. I went there for a day. I was like, all right, it has a nice beach. That was really about it.
it's basically like America, kind of in the Caribbean.
Yeah,
It's
there's really
it's
no reason.
cruise ships, and if you're a sailor, it's probably great. As a sailor, I'd probably love to do the Bahamas, but it's beaches and islands, and but in terms of Nassau, I had a great time there, and I thought the people were super nice. But it's nothing. It's so touristy. It's
Yeah, no, for your listeners, for people that are like, thinking about spending some time in Latin America, dating is obviously a priority. Like, 100% avoid that. So
Yeah, it's like the way it's done. I mean, it's not you're not getting outside your comfort zone at all. It's very set up you'd feel at home if you're an American there. That was my
yeah,
impression. Mind you, I stay there for a week, and you can get under the skin of it a bit, but it's still quite touristy. And it's not particularly there's not much to see there. And I said unless you have a boat, I wouldn't be rating it much.
yeah. I mean, it's like
Um,
it's a white sand beach. It's a tiny countries of a bunch of islands, bunch of
yeah,
Americans. Like for
yeah.
most people, I think it's an easy skip unless you're just trying to like go to a country to say you've been to a country.
Yeah, and one positive thing I will say about it is that for the locals, the Bahamians, that because there's so much tourists there, they've I didn't find any sort of like xenophobia or anything there. I found them quite welcoming people, which I cannot say for our last one on the list here, which is Jamaica. I didn't have I don't have super great things to say about, but so Jamaica, where would you put it, or what's your thoughts on Jamaica first of all?
So I went to Jamaica with a guy from Twitter that you might know, Dylan Madden. I was just trying to see a bunch of different countries, and he actually came with me. This is his first time outside the states, and
Oh, that's funny because it's because Jamaica's kind of can get pretty rough, like if you go to the wrong
yeah,
parts of it.
yeah. And it was funny because I'm in Jamaica, and like we're going to the beach and we're eating some jerk chicken and smoking a little weed and like going
I
to
love the
bars.
food though. I love the food in Jamaica. Oh, it's
Yeah,
good.
it's pretty for Caribbean. It's really good.
Yeah,
Um, but then after like 3 or 4 nights, we left, and he was like, "Oh man, that was so amazing. I love Jamaica." And I was like, "This is one of my least favorite countries I've ever been to." He's like, "No way." And I was like, "It's a shithole, bro. Like the people aren't that friendly. It's overpriced. It's kind of shitty." I'm like, "Go anywhere in South America. Go anywhere in Central America. Way better. Go to the Dominican Republic. Even go to fucking Haiti. Way better than Jamaica, in my opinion. Jamaica is like an avoid for me. Like I would never go back to Jamaica.
yeah, yeah. To be honest, I don't. I always kind of, yeah, yeah. I mean, I think I don't know why it gets so much press, that place. I guess because it's got the whole the legacy of Bob Marley and stuff. I end up actually I went smoking. I smoke weed in the guitarist of Bob Marley's house. I got
Oh, okay.
a because I was a reggae musician for years. I used to have dreadlocks down to my belly button, believe it or not. But I met up with this reggae musician who was kind of there on a kind of a pilgrimage, and he brought me around to the house, and it was like a church. It was so weird because it was about 30, 40 people all in the yard, and nobody was talking. And this guy, the guitarist, it was like a priest almost. He was in like a jalabia, like an Arab robe, and they would just play Bob Marley music, and there was a big drum he just hit go bong every so often, and literally there was just bags of weed passed around. I got given a free bag of weed. It was really really cool. But I found that because of so much tourists there, especially Montego Bay, Ocho Rios, and Negrils, American tourists that come up fly in. There's a lot of hustlers who bother you on the beach. You can't relax because there's someone
Yeah.
always trying to play you. Um, the only exception I would say I had great fun in Kingston because the nightlife, no, tourists don't really go to Kingston, and the nightlife there is wicked.
Really?
But again, yeah, the nightlife in Kingston is probably the best in the Caribbean. But caveat is just that some of the people in Jamaica are a little standoffish if you're lighter shade, and that's unfortunate, but
It's just
that's the
reality.
reality. Yeah.
Yeah. No, they definitely. I mean, I remember experience. We were in a taxi, and the taxi dude was like talking shit to me and Dylan, like which was really odd. You're in the service industry, and he was like trying to talk shit. So I started talking shit back because they speak English there, and but it was just I've never had like a taxi not try to be like helpful or inviting or even just shut the fuck up. But this dude literally wanted to talk shit. And I kind of felt like that was like the epitome of Jamaican culture, where it was just like everybody's a hustler, everybody wants to talk shit. As a white person in Jamaica, you're pretty much a mark. Um, yeah, not a place I would go back to.
Yeah, and even I found for girls and stuff, like I had some good experiences there. But again, there was a lot of like when you're in the clubs and stuff. I went to a few places where like I was there the only white dude, me and the other guy I was with, uh, and you get interest off girls, and when you talk to them, it's no problem. But some of them, when you talk to them, the guys are just leering at them and judging the girls, and they feel like there's kind of a protective element, so they feel embarrassed. So
Yeah.
you're kind of you kind of got to be a bit discreet about that because it can be a bit territorial. I found.
Yeah, no,
Um,
I could see that. But that's odd because in the Dominican Republic, for example, like there's not a simp, there's not a territorial dude in the whole country. Like I've spent 8 months in the Dominican Republic. My whole focus was dating other than going to the beaches. And the locals do not give two fucks. Like if a white dude, black dude, foreigner, whatever, comes there like and dates a chick, they don't care because they have such an abundance mentality in that country. So it is kind of weird to hear that Jamaica is kind of the opposite.
it's not just a Jamaica thing. I find New World, and this might, I don't want anyone to perceive this as a kind of a racist comment or anything, but I noticed that in the Western Hemisphere, New World people of African descent versus, let's say, Africa, you go to Africa, there's a big difference in the way you're treated because of the historical context.
Yeah,
Uh, Not so much so in highly mixed countries, let's say in the likes of Brazil, maybe, or Colombia, where there's a mix of Afro and Mestizo, and there's lots of different races, you have less of that. But in
yeah,
countries where they're predominantly from African descent, there can be a little bit of hostility. This is not always the case. A lot of the smaller islands, for example, you go to Dominica, you go to Trinidad. Well, Trinidad have a big ethnic mix with the Indians, so they don't have that. But super friendly places. Grenada, super friendly. St. Lucia. But the bigger islands, like Jamaica and maybe Haiti a little bit, there's just, it's not Africa. You go to Africa, people are so warm and welcoming, and they're so happy to have you. And I just noticed it feels a little different over there. And you understand it because slavery and history and blah blah blah.
yeah.
But anyway, I'm trying to think of something positive I can say about Jamaica just ended, and that would be the nightlife in Kingston. The nightlife in Kingston's cool. I'm a big reggae fan as well, and people are cooler in Kingston as well. They're a lot more cosmopolitan, especially the way to do for me to do Jamaica, guys, is get into the kind of upper middle class scene in Kingston. Those people are cool as hell. There's a lot more kind of mixed people, a lot more educated people, and they're super super cool. The parties, like they got these, I got invited to this private party in a villa like up in the mountains, and it was one of the coolest things I've ever been to. I have to say
Yeah,
that.
that sounds awesome.
Yeah. So like everywhere has its pros and cons. So that's it. Look, so guys, just have a look at this list here. Oh, sorry, we're missing a few. We're missing a
Yeah,
few.
yeah,
Look,
there you go.
bingo. So this is the final list we have here. So we got uh, Colombia, Brazil, Mexico. Top ranking here. Caveat with Mexico because you want to avoid the tourist spots. He
Yep.
would live there. Dior was up there as well with Peru, Paraguay, Bolivia, followed by Argentina and Nicaragua,
Yeah.
followed by Ecuador, Panama, El Salvador, Costa Rica. Yeah, so that's a summary there. And then on the would not return list, Chile, Jamaica, Puerto Rico, Bahamas, Haiti's in between the two, and Jamaica final. Yeah, so I got a couple of questions, by the way. This is from Latam Poppy. This is kind of a random one. I don't know if this is a joke, but
It's a joke. That's one of my best friends.
oh yeah,
Yeah. I won't share his dirty laundry, but we've lived a similar lifestyle, and he's had a lot more issues with it than I have. So I think that comes down to genetics, my friend. Not everybody catches the clap every 3 months.
You sold them up the river right there. Best first destination in Latin America aside from Mexico, where would you recommend for someone who's never ever been outside the States? Where would they go?
I mean, I want to say if you're going December through June, I would probably start in Lima, Peru. You're gonna be able to get by with English there pretty easily. It's a good place to study Spanish if you want to learn. Again, the chicks are super friendly. If you're a white dude, they're gonna like you. And it's gonna be gorgeous weather. It's pretty safe there. It's not super expensive, so that's probably a really good starter spot. If money is super, super tight for you, I really like Cali, Colombia. Cali, Colombia is going to be a little bit more dangerous, but it's going to be probably the best value you can get in Latin America. You can get a nice apartment in Cali, Colombia in a really good neighborhood for less than $500 a month. I mean, you could easily live like date cute chicks, go to martial arts, go to the gym, go do stuff in nature, like $1,500 a month all in Cali. So if money is super tight, I would start there. If money isn't that tight, I would go to Lima, Peru. A lot of people are starting in Buenos Aires these days. I'm not a huge Argentina guy, but I know a lot of people love it, and it's going to be super cheap right now with how their currency is performing. So those would probably be like the three places I would kind of look to outside of Mexico.
Next question is from Mike No Go Zones. Venezuela, the final frontier. We haven't been. Tips on getting the visa. I don't know if you'd be able to answer that question or.
Yeah, I do think Venezuela is definitely the final frontier. I've got some places that are other final frontiers, but I don't share those on the internet due to sworn secrecy from a few friends. But Venezuela definitely is going to be the final frontier. There's no foreigners there right now. Huge country, beautiful women, beautiful nature. I've heard some rumors that you can get a student visa with an American passport just with a letter. I haven't confirmed that myself or with any of my friends going there, but I've had a few people on Twitter tell me they can hook that up. So I don't want to give definitive information on that. I know it's super hard to get a visa there with an American passport, but I think we might be able to solve that problem here coming soon.
All right, cool. I think it's pretty easy for Europeans, for
Yes,
those interested. Yeah. This is from, yes, My Latin Life. Oh, by the way, shout out to Mike from No Go Zones. Shout out to My Latin Life as well. Thoughts on settling down after years of being a savage? How to choose the right partner?
My philosophy is if you can slide right in, she's been living in sin. And so that's kind of how I choose partners. And then also, for long-term relationships, personally, I only drink to, party with the bros or go on dates, right? But like day-to-day life, I'm not a huge drinker. So it was big for me to have a chick that wasn't into drinking. It was big for me to have a chick that liked to go to the gym. It was big for me to have a chick that, was into yoga and eating healthy and holistic type stuff. And that also was looking to have kids. Those were kind of the biggest things for me. I can't say I have like a system or anything like that because I was single in Latin America for like 8-9 years. So it took me a while to kind of settle down, I guess. And you definitely have some residual, like those old habits don't die as easily.
It's hard. It's hard. This is like I have a Colombian girl, and settling into going from the player lifestyle to any sort of stable relationship is extremely difficult. And it's not like a switch you can turn off. It's something you grow into. It's if you're looking to find someone long term, but it's not. The problem is once you tasted abundance, you're always going to struggle with it. And something I always warn younger guys, it's like, okay, you can go out and party and travel and do all this stuff, but you make a pact with the devil.
Oh yeah. And it can fuck up your mind, to be honest, because you're in this relationship and you love your chick, but then girls are girls. Once or twice a month they're going to do some bullshit, and you're like, why am I putting up with this? I can just go out tonight and get my needs serviced. But you kind of, if you want the relationship to work, you kind of have to put that player mindset of like, oh fuck it, I'm just gonna go out tonight. She pissed me off, kind of like behind you a little bit. But it's
Especially when you're
hard.
thinking
Like,
about family.
yeah,
But I 100% agree with what you said. You actually alluded to something that's actually quite important there about the drinking thing, because I do think it's important to find a girl who's not a drinker, or at least like doesn't really drink. Like, it's great if she can just have a glass of wine at dinner if you buy some, but someone who doesn't have that culture of drinking, which which excludes every single girl from my country. Sorry, Ireland, but but
yeah,
Irish, that's Irish girls kind of can drink without getting too associating it with sex. But I think in the West, sorry, in like America and stuff like that, the alcohol and the sexuality that comes with it are very much entwined for some reason. Um, but yeah, you're dead right, because a girl who drinks a lot. I mean, it's I don't need to explain this to anyone. But I
no,
think
no,
actually that's a pretty solid tip.
yeah, no, it's common sense, and like it's kind of just what you want. If you're wanting to settle down with a chick and actually have a relationship, like you don't want her needing to go have girls' nights and get drunk with her friends and stuff like that. Like that's super unattractive to me personally. So that made that like, I found a chick that I was attracted to, wasn't a drinker, was more family oriented, and there were other things
And
obviously.
very young. You got some heat on Twitter about that.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I want to have a lot of kids, a lot of kids. So like her being a younger girl that's going to have more years of fertility was important to me. And then once we found out that we really got along and we were compatible personality wise, things kind of grew from there.
She's Mexican, and she's you're 36. She's 19 or 20
No,
or
I'm 32. She just turned
oh, sorry,
20,
32.
so she's getting a little bit older, but we'll make
Okay.
it work.
All right. On that note, is there anything else you'd like to tell people? Like, where can they find you? I think I have your Substack and your Twitter on here.
Yeah, yeah, no. So yeah, I got my Substack and my Twitter. Those are the places where I'm the most active by far. If you got any questions about LATAM, like I answer a bunch of those in my Substack, and hit me up in DMs or whatever.
Awesome. And guys, as usual, you can find me at Naughty Nomad on Twitter and Instagram. And my latest book, My Life as a Mexican Pirate, is available on Audible now. Just finished the audiobook, so got to give it a plug there as well. But that was an awesome conversation, Jake, and hopefully we get to meet up in the future. I have yet to go to Mexico, so
Oh, dude,
I
yeah,
had tickets there before. I had tickets there before, but I couldn't get the visa for the States, so I couldn't go through it. But I'll get there eventually, so maybe we'll see each other in the
that,
future.
definitely let me know if you make it across the pond, and we'll meet up for sure, man. You've been an inspiration, and I've loved all your books. All your content has been fantastic for over a decade. So
Thanks, man. And I've been reading you as well. You're prolific, I have to say. I love your work ethic, and you just seem like a really one of those guys on Twitter, the real deal. One of the cooler ones.
hey, man, appreciate it, man. Appreciate it. Yeah, Twitter's funny, man. I've met up. Like, it's a great way to filter bros because you can read so many tweets of somebody and just be like, oh, he's cool. I'd meet up with that dude. Or like, yo, that dude's weird as fuck. Like, you can pretty much
Yeah,
figure that reading somebody's Twitter for like 2 or 3 minutes. So
yeah. And there's a lot of anons as well who think they're experts, and it's like, dude, what do you don't know who they are. You don't know what they look
oh
like.
yeah,
I appreciate people who show their face.
yeah, for sure. For
All
sure.
right, guys. So thanks for everyone who watched. Hopefully, you got some value. Just again, there. That's the list we came up with. That was super fun. I like this format. I'll probably do it again with some other region.
Yeah, that
But
was that was a
yeah, it
great
was
plan for sure.
yeah, yeah, it was cool. All right, so over and out, guys, and until next time.
Thanks for having me on, bro.